I'm asking you the first question, the routine question: what is enlightenment and what is liberation? So this is the basic idea that if you go through the idea, what is the enlightenment and what is liberation, there is no other search in our life. All our search will end by understanding what is enlightenment and what is liberation. What is enlightenment and what is liberation? What is the connection between both? And you have to enlighten me, enlighten me. What is enlightenment and what is liberation?
Okay, maybe I will. I will be the first.
Yeah. You take the role of the master first.
Not the master, but the first one to make the mistake. Yeah. So the way I understand it, enlightenment is the understanding that there is no work. It's the understanding that you have no work to be done, and that you just need to let things happen, and there is nothing for you to be done in the in your mind, in your conscious mind. And liberation is just the natural state, which is always there, but you're simply not you're not understanding it. So you think you always need to regulate and saturate your emotions and your feelings and your expectations, and you're always in a fight. And this fight is causing a lot of suffering. But enlightenment is the understanding that you simply don't have to do anything. You just need to accept whatever happens. And that's liberation. I mean, the minute you understand that, you understand also the liberated state of yourself. So
A few more examples for liberation. What is liberation?
Liberation, the way I see it, is just the state where you let whatever happens happens. You don't have to just natural flow. You live, you accept whatever is happening right now. You live in whatever is happening right now, and you don't have to do anything, or you don't have to. You just need to accept it. It's just the way I see it is the acceptance of whatever is happening is the liberated state. Is realizing the liberated state.
Okay. You may translate in your own language also. What is the difference between the enlightened liberation and non-enlightened liberation? So already we are having liberation, but when we are enlightened, what kind of liberation is there? If we are not liberated, what kind of liberation is there?
So when I'm enlightened, I'm conscious about my liberation. When I'm not enlightened, I'm not conscious about my liberation.
Conscious of liberation means?
Conscious of liberation means that I actually experience liberation. I don't.
What is the quality of liberation? What is the quality of we are conscious of liberation? That is right. But what is the quality of liberation when we are enlightened? And what is the quality of the liberation when not enlightened?
It's the same quality. It's just that in one case you see it, you understand it, and the second one you're not. You're always clouded with continuous fighting, continuous efforts.
Okay, okay. And you may also translate well. So the fighting nature is very important. So you are nice. Good.
Thank you.
Lanier, you may try.
So enlightenment, in your definition, is the intellectual, ordinary, superficial understanding that there is no work to do in the psychological world. There is no thing. There's nothing we can do in order to free ourselves or get liberated or anything. We don't need to alter, change, or transform anything in the psychological world. So the understanding that we don't need to act upon our psychological world is, in my understanding, your definition of enlightenment.
Okay.
And liberation, in your definition, would be the natural, everyday flow of the emotions from minute to minute, the flow of thoughts from second to second, from moment to moment. The ordinary, everyday flow of the psychological content, which is thoughts, emotions, sensations, whatever comes up. So that would be liberation, the natural flow of the psychological world. And the relationship between the two would be that the natural state is always there, the liberated state is always there. But when enlightenment is not attained, then there is an inner conflict, inner fight. So we are caught up in this inner fight, and we don't realize our true, our natural state as a free-flowing state. So that I would say that this is the difference between an unenlightened person and an enlightened person. The unenlightened is caught up in trying to change his psychological world in order to achieve happiness and freedom and whatever he wants to achieve. The enlightened person knows that all his strivings, all his efforts, all his pushing and pulling in the inner world will only make things worse. And so he flows with everything, whatever comes, he flows with it, and he just has to decide what his next action would be, his next word would be, and but from the inner aspect, there's no effort whatsoever. Sometimes, although that a person may have this understanding, conflict may arise even in the inner world. But if the understanding is real, is deep-rooted, then he understands that even the inner conflict, even the fighting in himself, is part of the flow, and then he lets even that is seen as part of the flow, and there is no problem, even with the inner conflict.
Okay. You may translate in your...
He's saying that the bird is competing with me. She wants liberation also. we have a parrot. We have to let him out.
We have to arrest them Not to liberate now. We are keeping it in under control.
It wants to answer it.
So when it is, so it is, I think it is on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, so it is, when it is liberated, it is okay.
it's quiet.
Okay.
Will translate.
Oh.
So Rita is saying that for her, in order to enlightenment to happen, liberation has to be there first, and she means like being free from our emotions, being free from our thoughts, being free from our sensations. And then she says for her, enlightenment is the ability to see clearly what we are given, what we hear, what we see, and she says that we have to be first free from, get freedom from our emotions, sensations, and thoughts in order to appreciate what we get, what is around us, what surrounds us. And I think she said that the connection between the relationship between liberation and enlightenment is that the liberation is physical and enlightenment is more of an intuition nature.
Okay. Freedom from emotions means what? This kind of selecting some emotion, good emotions alone has to come and bad emotions should not come, or giving total freedom to the emotion. Which one is freedom from emotion? Giving freedom from emotion means what? Is a selected emotion alone must come, and unnecessary emotions should not come. So we have to, so whether it is meaning a control over emotions or giving total freedom to emotions. What is the freedom of emotion? Freedom from emotion. What do you mean? What do you mean by freedom from emotion?
So Rita is saying that she means that liberation for her is giving freedom to not focusing on what happens inwardly. Just let it be what it is. Then you are free to notice what is around you and to get messages for what you are supposed to do, and you are now not occupied with the inner world. You are open to see what is happening and acting in the right way.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
We are all everything is in liberation, but we don't know it. We are in liberation because we are not enlightened, and even the world and then body and everything happens in a liberated state. But when the thought comes internally, and then I also comes in, because the I, everything we think happening to me, and once you get enlightened, you know that I actually comes and goes. It never stays. And whatever comes, we don't get involved in like thought comes. If the thought is needed, then we take it and then act upon it if there's a need. Otherwise, everything flow through in the mind. And we don't need to worry about anything. So whatever comes, it will go if we don't do anything. So it can be bad thought, it can be good thought, it can be whatever. It says, even though some thoughts we may think I should not have it, but if that comes, because that is not we ask for it. It comes. When that comes, sometimes there's a I also come in. Then it says why that is coming to me. and we get the suffering of that one. Like we try to say, like, why it is happening to me? Why this thought is coming? This thought should come, I'm a good person. Why the bad thought is coming? Those sort of things. But whatever comes, it comes from the total nature itself. So let it go when that comes. If something you have to do outside, take the thought and do it. If that is confining with the law of the society or the land, otherwise let it go. Let it go is actually we don't let it go. We just see that is there. That if we say let it go means we are doing something. We don't do anything. It's happening.
Okay.
And then I actually, as long as I is not taking any ownership of anything, then everything happening, and then we'll be in a state of not affected with things what are happening around. So the happy or sad, it all comes. Any emotion will have some chemical reaction on the body, but it is okay. If that is needed, we take it. Otherwise, we just let it happen. So when the enlightenment happens, liberation, we know the liberation is on the go, even in the outside and inside as well. So everything changing every time. That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, liberation means free. There is no contraction, there is no struggle, there is no tightness. It is loose and free. So that is, so our existence, our very existence is natural. It is loose, it is free. It is moment by moment new. There is no old at all. Each and every moment is new. There is nothing old. So everything is naturally changing. But so it is our natural state. So the natural state is the liberated one. And whether it is in the physical form or in the psychological form, everything, the flowing moment by moment new, the newness is always coming. The world is always going. So it is the natural law of everybody. When something is living, all living thing, whether it is physical or psychological, if it is living, the liberation is natural. The moment by moment new is natural. There is no world at all. So it is the nature of everything. The very nature of our existence, the nature of our psychological function is in the form of liberation. There is nothing wrong. But when we, according to circumstances, when we meet a crucial circumstances, some to deal with the circumstances, some unwanted energy, unwanted emotion has to come. Then only we can meet the situation. So it is also natural. But at the same time, when some good emotion comes, we are all right. We feel all right. But some bad emotion comes, we do not feel all right. So we want to, either we have to separate our emotion or we have to separate the external world. So if the external world is okay, our internal world is also okay. Sometimes the external, we cannot separate the external world, and we have to try to separate the psychological world, and we have to keep ourselves in a calm state. So that is the reason for our struggle. And there are many practices, many spiritual practices, and many psychological practices are given to separate our mind, to keep our mind in a good state. So everything is good for the beginners. For the beginner, we can practice something for the betterment or some good emotions or good state of feeling, create some good feeling, or keep ourselves without affected by any bad feeling. So in this way, we are designing our mind, designing the function of our mind. We are given some practices, and with the help of the practices, we may, for the certain period, may keep our mind in a good form. But the naturally, the natural flow is like, for example, we can compare the water. The water is always lucid and flow. It is it is a flexible one. But if it is in a frozen state, it is not a flexible one. But naturally we interested upon a fixed state. If we are in a good feeling, we feel we are okay. If in a bad state, we are not feel okay. So then only, but we are trying to have a some way or other, we are trying to rigid our flexibility. We're trying to frozen our flexibility nature of our mind. So that means we are giving importance to the psychological function. The psychological existence, it must be like this, must not be like this. So our concern is towards the psychological function. But actually, the psychological function is natural. We need not worry about the psychological function. It is moment by moment new. Sometimes the external situation may not be in a fluid state. It may be like a frozen state. But the psychological function is always in a liquid state. But if it is in a liquid state, if you try to set right in a fixed state, in a frozen state is also a problem. So what creates problem is that when we try to frozen our state, frozen our liquid state of our mind, in a frozen state is the problem. And but there is not at all a frozen state. Naturally, when we give freedom to the frozen state of the mind itself, it will become a liquid in a moment or later. It will be liquid. It will become, because it is a natural state. The liquid state is the natural state. The frozen state is only the temporary form, and the temporary form may not last. But whenever we are trying to separate the frozen state and create a frozen state or destroying the frozen state, that alone is the struggling within ourselves. So here, in psychological world is concerned, we have no work at all. And the very understanding that because we are having our intellect, with the help of our intellect, we have to execute all our duties. Without intellect, we cannot do anything. And within the same habit, we try to separate our function of our mind itself, separate the natural function of our mind, natural function of our emotions, the natural liquid state of our emotion also, and creating unnecessary struggle within the liquid state of our emotion, liquid state of our mind. So the liquid state is the natural state. So in this way, the liberation is our natural state. But we need not think the liberation is always in a pleasurable emotion. It is just like a flowing emotion. The flowing emotion is the natural state. The flowing emotion is the liberated state. The flowing emotion is the liberation. So, and even though it is the not flowing, the keeping itself flexible. The flexible state itself is the liberated state. The water is a flexible one, but the frozen water is not a flexible one. So if it is flexible, whether it is flowing or not, it doesn't matter. If it is a flexible, the flexibility gives its liberation, gives its freedom. But only some frozen nature alone creates some problem. And when we want to have a good emotion for ourselves, that creates a problem. And when wants to get away from the bad emotion, that is also a problem. So thereby we are giving unnecessary struggle within the natural state of our freedom, natural state of our emotion. So thereby our intellect creates the problem in the function of the natural flow. So our intellect understand that we have no business with related to the inner structure of our mind. The very understanding of our intellect is enlightenment, and by this enlightenment, the liberation is constant. The liberation is natural. There is no problem in the liberation. When the liberation is okay, everything is okay. So, but at the same time, we need not think the liberation will always give good emotion alone. It may give bad emotions, bad sensation. So, what according to the circumstances alone, the response from our mind, all emotion may come. So dealing with the external actions alone, this external world alone, we may have some different kind of idea. In other days, we have thought about discussed about the total mind, conscious mind. So that is also related to the external world, external things. But in the psychological world is concerned, no principle is necessary, no philosophy is necessary. Just understanding that we have no business at all with related to the psychological world, that itself is enough. Thereby, we have to demarcate what is psychological and what is physical. So the very understanding what is psychological and what is physical, we are able to give freedom to the psychological part. If you are unable to split up what is psychological and what is physical, then we cannot give liberation, we cannot understand the enlightenment. So primarily, we understand what is physical and what is psychological. If you are able to understand what is physical and what is psychological, we can easily understand. But our duty is only to the external world. There is no duty with related to the psychological world. So all psychological emotions are good. All psychological emotions are natural. There is no flaw within the psychological world. So it is the divine world where there is no work on our part. So this is my opinion.
Sri Bagavath